Welcome to the Peace Place. This is Coach Judy, bringing you love and hopefully a little bit of wisdom as we hunger for and learn how to abide in the presence of God. Now, for many decades, I studied and searched for answers to the meaning of life, specifically the meaning and the purpose for my life. For ultimately, it's only our lives for which we individually have responsibility for. It is what we say that shapes our life, no matter how much we want to fix others and the problems of the world. We each choose what and how we will follow. So, in the quest to make a difference, to impact lives for good, I concluded the answer is best found and lived when we know the one, the God who is and knows all about all. And when we know the God is available and desires to order our steps and shape our lives into vessels of wisdom and good. Now, one of the greatest challenges we face, well, we're molded and we're shaped and we've been developed by much that is void of real love. When we agree with, embrace, and promote many agendas, when lived out, encourage much division and much strife. We do not have to continue to live this way. We can learn other. In the process of living love and being guided by the creative force of the universe, we discover much that we have embraced that is not resulting in good. So we can call on God and He does answer. Now I'm talking about calling on Him for the big and the little things of life, for God teaches us there's nothing that misses there's no surprise to God. It's every concern that we have, God is also concerned about. Now, this is so far beyond what I even had the capacity to understand and believe. But over this, especially the last 8 years, I've found that He is faithful beyond any capacity any human being has. So I found that He really does answer when we call on Him. Now, when we use the word God, so much of the time people just turn their hearing off, for so many have not an experience with God, or He has been a flat and hollow word to them. Now, to clarify, I want to let you know that the God I'm speaking of, when I use this word God, and you sense the intense love and the honor that I had for Him, because I'm speaking of the one who spoke and all was, the God who gave us the Bible as the way to traverse and experience this thing we call life. This God is love and holds all wisdom in His hands. This God has a plan for each of us and will reveal that plan and will order our steps throughout that plan. This God is responsive in good. Now, we don't get to do our own thing and have all the benefits of God, which is very familiar practice in our life today. We think we're entitled to everything just because we want it. It doesn't work that way. There are rules, and as we know and understand and commune with those rules and the God of those rules, we can be led on the pathway of our lives. And when we know and do the things that God has called us to do in the ways that are good in our love, He orders every step that we take. And we can experience peace, love, and guidance that is good. Well, this God is faithful. And though there have been and continue to be efforts to discredit and erase the all knowing and faithful guidance, I have found that it's a very satisfying and prolific way to live and share with others. It's not a perfect way to live, because part of God's rules and God's ways is that we can turn to Him and we can admit we've made mistakes, and He embraces us and continues to guide our steps in ways that are good and are right. So it's a very satisfying way to live and share with others. As we seek to know God and hunger for perfect peace, God responds and teaches us about who He is and how we can learn to listen for the voice and the wisdom of a God of love. So it's a very exciting way, and I invite you to study and engage with me in God's ways of wisdom and love. God teaches His ways are not our ways. He teaches us His understanding is not our understanding, and boy, is that true. Our choices and ways result in many of the messes that we face in our world today. We have patterns that we continue to live over and over. Have you ever noticed any of those patterns always turn out the same way? And usually it's not love. So it doesn't have to remain that way. We can learn to hear, connect with, abide, and commune with. I know it sounds strange, but it's possible. And it's very satisfying. So we can connect with the voice and the heart of God, and we can learn to distinguish His voice and ways. There is a way to engage in a private, intimate journey, and each one can discover and walk in wisdom and peace, backed by the creative, loving power of God Almighty. Now, the way that the name that God has given me on this pathway that He has given me calls it the peace movement. I love that He does talk to us and respond, and He's faithful in what He gives. So we find that, first of all, we have to have peace within to be able to credibly pass on peace to another. And then ultimately, when we know the peace of God within and we have been able to sustain that, we can then have some effectiveness and some power in bringing the peace to the world. So when I cried out to God, He drew me to His heart, and all of a sudden I started hearing from deep in my spirit in a response to my prayer life, and sometimes a guidance of prayers themselves that came out as poetry. They are now prayers and poems. We have the word is we now use as prayoms because it's a combination of those both. In my time over the last 8 years with Him, He has given me over 1,000 of these stories, where the themes of them is sometimes it's starting out like God saying to me, yeah, this is the way you all are. And I say, yeah, God, this is the way that I am. This is the way that I'm feeling. This is the way that my life seems right now. And as I continue to press into Him and I write what it is that I'm hearing, it ultimately, He turns the page and He shows me that He is the answer every time. And so they're called prayoms. And as I share the prayom with you for the day called Your Word Truth, I invite you to listen, first of all, through your understanding, because that's pretty much all we have. And then reach deeper into your heart, asking God for His heart for your life throughout these prayoms. So I invite you to join with me and bask in God's love, Your Word Truth. Your Word Truth. When I put Your Word at my foundation, a peace flows over me. I remember the days when I didn't know, when the days that I couldn't see. My mind searched for answers, elusive at best, experiences so hollow, a time for much test. Soul aching, heart breaking had become the norm, arising each day expecting the storm. Heart empty, life shallow, I felt plastic at best, glancing around desperately, seeking for rest, for what I hoped could someday provide. a place with no torment, a place to abide. There's got to be more. Yes, my heart would cry out. This life I've handled left me with much doubt. I'd stand there just staring at the face in the mirror, wondering if there really was an omnipotent hearer. But then the day came, the peace returned. With it, the voice I trust and learned had been there forever, calling my pursuing, persisting, not playing a game, not there to deceive me, abuse me, or leave me, not there to bring sorrow and tears, but there to refine me, yes, there to remind me, so willing to guide me through remaining years. Oh, your way, oh, so kind, your way, oh, so tender, your way, oh, so pure, allowed me to surrender, found a love like I'd never known, love you've patiently and continually shown, not based on conditions of doing enough, not based on a workload producing much stuff, not requiring perfection with brutal correction, not guilting my way to conform, not requiring much pleasing with thinly veiled teasing, not expecting a smile while inside all the while, heart bruised and often torn. Yes, she brought healing and a new joyful norm. Little did I have a clue of what you were about to do. Revealed the tapestry you'd been weaving, bound by truth you'd not be leaving. The backside view was all I could see, full of tangles and twists I thought were me. But in your design plan from the start, I saw through your eyes and then your heart of real love. As it constantly amazes me every time I get to return to one of the prayers that he's giving me, continues to touch my heart and heal my heart and reveal his joy and his patience and his love. I spent 40 years out of any type of formal religion, searching for all the ways of that mankind said were the ways to go. And I never found any that was satisfying like what I now get to experience. And I realize that so many of us see the Bible as something that's just a book of stories. I've found the reality to be it is alive. The word of God, it's like the hand of God reaches out to me and speaks and leads and corrects and guides and forgives and does all of the things that we hunger for from wise guidance. And because our minds are searching for answers, so much of the time we don't even have the courage to say out loud, is this all there is? But our hearts are crying out in this world that is so broken. The answers, you can't find the answers in the world that bring the joy and the peace that only God can bring. So as we recognize ourselves, the answers are elusive. We experience hollowness. We experience ourselves kind of plastic, and we say to ourselves, is this, I don't even believe this stuff anymore that I'm saying, and those kinds of things on the journey. Well, we can get to a place, or you can know that there's a perfect peace that passes all understanding. So as we find that there really is more, our hearts cry out every day. You ever cry out with your heart to say, God, there's got to be more than the way that I know. We have patterns that we follow, and one of the things that I did on this journey is I came to the conclusion that I could and was trained at the level that I could listen to people speak, and in 2 sentences, I can tell you how we will turn from God, turn to our own understanding, or understanding that we have embraced. We don't have to do that. Mankind doesn't know. At best, he knows a little, and most of the time, he only is able to produce and promote his own agendas, and so much of the time, they are not good. And what people say, well, how do I understand when I'm listening to my mind or the voice of God? Well, God teaches us that. He says the mind that is on God is a perfect peace. He's not talking about the peace of the world, but he's talking about a peace that passes all understanding. And we can learn how to do that. So we find that though I always thought of God as certainly mad at me and certainly there to destroy me and all of that kind of teaching and understanding, it's all I knew until I um, started this journey and found that God is kind and his ways are tender, all powerful, able to change everything at every moment. He's the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. He is the God of love. And he doesn't require us to please like man please. We're only to please God, and we can discern and understand what those ways are that he wants us to please, because it'll always result in good. And I love the stanza where he said, little did I have a clue of what he was about to do. We don't know sometimes in this journey, because it's so based on faith. It's based on believing that God is, and he is a rewarder of those who seek him. We, in order to keep us from relying on our own understanding, God's ways are so much higher than our ways, and so much more profitable than any of man's ways. So he has been weaving a tapestry with your life. There's nothing that will be wasted. God teaches us that all things work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose as well. His word, he is faithful, his word is true, and all the things that have happened in our lives, no matter how horrific, no matter how off track, no matter how painful, the God that I'm talking about is able to turn those around. So it doesn't make any sense to me to rely on my own understanding anymore. And now that he has walked me through and continues every day to walk me through layers and layers of unveiling and layers of healing and layers of teaching and layers of revelation. And God doesn't love me any more than he loves everyone, and he wants not one to be without his love. So the focus that I have is called the Peace Movement. It really is. Right now there are over 1,000 stories and pathway, and many, around 40 books or something like that right now, but all designed in a way to take people on an individual journey of discovering what's not God, which is mostly our mind and the ways that we do things, and what is God and how to reach for that. So I get so passionate about what I've discovered, for I lived so many years without it. And now that I know that the wisdom is available for each individual life, and that there is a God that will lead each of us not according to someone else's agenda for our life, but for his agenda of love. And so no matter how little you know about a process of finding God, I um, just want to encourage you today, because it's possible, because God meets us wherever we are, and he will lead, guide, and teach us. So if any of this has been interesting to you today, and you're interested in discovering how in the world do I ever discover that God is real when I have my head filled with so much other stuff, well, he's bigger than all of it, and God is able to draw you in. You can find and follow. I encourage you to do that because it's always good to be connected to a word that's searching for truth that's unchanging. And this is where my heart is. You can find every Monday through Friday. Our plan is to be live at 11 here on the YouTube channel. You can subscribe to be a part of this ongoing journey of discovering a lot about what's not God before and allowing Him to peel back all of that and get to know the prolific, powerful, loving, almighty, able God that has a plan for each of us. You can find me on prayoms.com. That's PRAYOEMS.com. It's quite an extensive website. We're establishing a forum where we'll be able to interact. You'll be able to be supportive of this peace movement if you have a heart to do that and engage in many ways yourself to help promote the word of love and peace, first within, with another, and then to the world. So we can see you on Monday through Friday at 11. So this is Coach Judy. I hope this has been an encouraging, uplifting word for your day. It's Coach Judy signing out. Peace, love, and joy to you today.